Have you ever really thought about why a wooden table costs so much more than the tree it came from? Or why a simple bar of chocolate is way more expensive than the beans used to make it? Well, that hidden journey, the one that turns something simple into something valuable, is exactly what we're going to break down today.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute basics of why things have a price tag in the first place. Then, we'll look at real-world examples, like chocolate and gold. We'll even get into how businesses figure out their profit. And we'll wrap it all up with a quick review to make sure it all sticks. All right, let's get right into it. To really get a grip on this whole idea, we need to start with one big, fundamental question. I mean, really think about that for a second. They're both just wood, right? But one costs almost nothing, and the other can cost a fortune. This one question is actually the key to unlocking the entire concept of value, how raw stuff becomes the finished products we use every single day.
And here's the first big idea. You've got your raw materials, things like wood, which are sometimes called primary products. They're the starting point, and they're usually cheap. It's only after they go through a process that they become secondary products, our manufactured goods, like a table. And that's when the price tag gets a whole lot bigger.
So what happens in that factory to make the price jump up? Well, it pretty much boils down to three main costs. First off, there's labor. You have to pay the actual people who are doing the work. Then you've got additions. All the other little things you need, like screws, glue, maybe some varnish. And finally, you have overheads. Think electricity to run the saws, the machines themselves, and even the box you ship the table in.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's not just a piece of wood anymore. It's now the result of a design, of skill, of a ton of work. Every single one of those actions, the sawing, the sanding, the painting, adds another layer of value onto that original tree.
Okay, let's take this idea and apply it to something we all know and love, chocolate. How does this journey from raw to refined work here? So get this, for about 70% of all the chocolate in the world, the journey starts in the very same place. The cocoa beans, our raw primary product, are mostly grown and harvested in West Africa.
And just like with the table, here's that value-adding process in action. The beans get harvested and roasted, then they're mixed with additions, sugar, milk. They're shaped into bars, wrapped up in packaging, and then shipped out to stores all over the planet. It's an incredible journey from a simple bean to that chocolate bar, with value being piled on at every step.
Okay, that brings us to the money side of things. We know factories have costs, but how do they actually make money? To figure that out, we need to get really clear on the difference between cost and profit.
It's actually pretty straightforward. The total cost is just everything the business has to spend to make something. We're talking ingredients, power for the factory, paying the workers, the whole shebang. Profit?
Well, that's the extra bit of money they make on top of all those costs when they finally sell the product.
Let's put this into practice with a super simple and delicious example. Let's say you're baking cookies to sell. You've paid for your ingredients and you've used some electricity for the oven. So, what's your base cost?
Yep, you just add it all up. The ingredients plus your overhead, the electricity, gives you a total cost of 62 Rand and 50 cents to make that batch of cookies. Simple as that.
Okay, so you know what it cost you. But here's the thing, you're not in business just to break even, right? You want to make some money for your effort. So the big question is, how do you figure out a price that includes a nice, healthy profit?
Well, if you want to make a 50% profit, you first figure out what 50%, or half, of your total cost is. Half of our $62.50 is our $31.25. You take that profit and add it right on top of your cost. And there you have it, your final selling price, 93 Rand and 75 cents.
All right, let's totally switch gears now and look at an extreme example of value, a material that people have been obsessed with for literally thousands of years, gold. Now, here's what makes gold so different. Unlike trees or cocoa beans, which we can always grow more of, gold's value starts incredibly high because of one thing: scarcity. There's only so much of it on planet Earth, period. That makes the raw material itself precious right from the get-go.
But even with something as valuable as gold, its form really matters. We measure its purity in carats. Now, 24 karat is 100% pure gold, but the thing is, it's actually super soft. So for something like jewelry that needs to be durable, it's often mixed with other metals to make it stronger. That's how you get 18 karat gold, which is 75% pure.
And wow, check this out. This is where you really see the power of that manufacturing process. An ounce of raw gold just sitting there as a bar is already worth a ton, like $1,750. But the moment a skilled jeweler applies their labor and design to shape it into a piece of jewelry, its value literally doubles. It jumps to around $3,500. Just incredible.
Okay, you've absorbed a lot of info about how value gets created. Let's do a quick-fire round to lock it all in. I'll ask the question, you try to shout out the answer before I do. You ready?
First one, what is the manufactured or secondary product of a raw apple? That's right, it's apple juice. The apple is primary, the juice is secondary.
Next up, if a shirt is the secondary product, what's its primary raw material? That would be cotton, grown out in a field.
And for the last one, what do you think about canned fish? Primary or secondary? It's got to be secondary because that raw fish has been cooked, processed, and sealed up in a factory.
So let's end with this thought. The next time you pick up your phone, or put on a pair of shoes, or even just look at the chair you're sitting on, just stop for a second. Think about its hidden journey. What raw materials came from the earth, what invisible costs were involved, and what incredible human skill went into making that object exactly what it is. It kind of changes how you see everything.